Hello, everyone, and welcome to a God Shift podcast. I am your host, Shayna Rattler. I want to welcome you to this episode, and I have a favor to ask you. So, wherever you are listening to this episode, I ask that you will take a screenshot, whether it is of your computer screen, whether it is of your phone or your tablet screen. I ask that you take a screenshot of you watching this episode. And then if you will post it on your Instagram, either your feed or your stories, and then tag us at a God Shift, I would really appreciate you doing that. So I am excited today to share my guest, Jesse Cole, with you. So I'm going to read his formal bio to you, and then we will let him tell us a little bit more about himself in his own words. Jesse Cole helps people cultivate their experiences, uncover the transformational principles that are hidden beneath the surface, and convert those principles into a message they can monetize. As an author, speaker, coach, and executive producer, he understands the value of an authentic message. He is a husband, a father, and is the oldest of four children. Jesse believes that his family is the true expression of his purpose and assignment in action. Welcome to the podcast, Jesse Cole.
Thank you for having me, Shayna. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. So that's your official bio, if you will, or at least a portion of it. So tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, so one thing I try to do with my bio was tell the truth, right? Try to not fabricate stuff. So pretty much what they just heard, that's it. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I try not to have any hyperbole in any of the copy that I put out. So pretty much what you read is what you're going to get. I help people discover, build, and monetize their kingdom message. I'm what they call a kingdom platforms coach, and I help you do that to, discover that message that's on the inside of you and get it out into the world so that you can begin to transform people's lives and also generate some income from it too.
And so, who's your ideal client? Because a lot of different people listen to this podcast. So, who's your ideal client?
Yeah, that's a tricky question, Shayna, right? Because as I believe that as kingdom ambassadors, we speak to a variety of people, right? But the people that are called to me, that I'm assigned to, these are the people that they feel as if they have a message. They've gone through some kind of transformational experience, and they don't know how to get that message out into the world. And I help them do that. It's just that simple.
Perfect. I love it. And so, do you work with people who have businesses and who just have a message, or just business owners?
Absolutely. So anybody that has a message. So I have right now on my client list, I have people who have businesses, CEOs, but I also have nurses. I also have pastors. And so there's a myriad of people that fit into this kingdom platforms pot.
I love it. So let's get into your God shift journey. So for those of you who are listening to this podcast for the first time, or maybe you're just being introduced to me for the first time, a God shift is the moment that a disruption in your life collides with God's purpose and then ultimately gets you into a greater destiny. So Jesse, can you describe a time in your life that God had to use a disruption or an unexpected circumstance to get your attention?
Yeah. There have been several, of course, but the one that rings true for me right now is the prayer walk I went on a couple of years ago. At the time, I was working in education and as a student success coach at a college campus. And I had been in education up to that point for almost 10 or 12 years. And I was speaking on the side, and I was, writing books and coaching on the side as well. So it wasn't officially a business at this point. It was just something I was just doing just to express my passion. And then one morning on a Sunday morning around 7 o'clock, I heard Holy Spirit say, "Get up. I need to talk to you." So I got up, put on my sweats, went outside, plugged my earphones into my phone, and I began to walk. And whatever I was hearing from heaven, I recorded it on my cell phone, into my cell phone on the recording app. And every day, every week, I would listen to it. I would listen to all the vision that God downloaded. I would listen to all the instruction that I heard that day, and that began to be my marching orders from that day forward.
I love that. So how, what do you think that he was trying to get you to see, right? Because this is very detailed. Like, he didn't just send you a little innuendo. He didn't send you a still small voice. He said, get up, go on a walk, record it all. And he didn't just give you a word, like he gave you a string of detailed sentences. So what was he trying to get you to see?
He wanted me to see, I believe, several things. First of all, that I was called to do this work. The work that I was dabbling in, the work that truthfully I didn't really feel confident or qualified enough to do. I think he wanted me to see that, first of all, I don't call the qualified, I qualify the called, right?
Yeah.
And I felt that in that moment. He was also trying to get me to see his plans for me were to prosper me, not to harm me, to give me a hope in the future. So scripture came alive for me during that time. So he showed me what I'm doing right now, the coaching, the speaking, the events, the executive producing. He showed me all that on a prayer walk, from the building my team out to my logo for my business. Everything that I'm doing right now, I saw over 2 years ago.
I love that. I want to unpack something that you said, because I think that oftentimes when we're being called to something new, if it's something that we've never done before or it just feels really big, our knee jerk reaction, even if we've accomplished great things in the past, our knee jerk reaction can be like, me? Like, really? Like, because I know that was my own story. When I first got called to ministry, I was like, I have got to be the least likely person that God would ever want, to minister to his people, or that to think that anybody would even want to have to listen to what I say. And I came up with some really great excuses. Like, I wasn't raised in church. I can remember as a little girl, my grandmother doing my hair and sending me to an AME church at the corner with a dime for my offering. But so I told myself, like, I wasn't raised in church, which means I wasn't in Sunday school, which means that I don't know the stories. So how in the world am I going to minister to people based on, the couple of scriptures that I have memorized? So let's unpack that a little bit, because the word tells us, I believe it was in Genesis, where he tells, it's Abram at the time, he hasn't yet become Abraham, and he says, tell you to go to the place that I will show you. And he goes on later, I believe that it also may be in Genesis, where he basically is telling us that he prepares us for the place that he has prepared for us. So what would you say to someone who has found themselves in a similar situation where they're like, oh, shoot, am I even able or ready or prepared to do this? Because I think many of us, we know the scriptures, in our heads, we know that God can do anything. But what's something practical that you can tell somebody who's struggling with whether or not they're capable of what it is that God is asking them to do?
Man, that's some good eating right there, Shayna. You got my mind going as you're talking about your experience. Um, I would say that the very thing that you think that doesn't qualify you qualifies you,
Yes.
right? And so I felt this at the time. I was living in two worlds, right? My father's a pastor, my mother is a teacher and owned businesses, and so the whole faith and business piece was it's in my DNA. And so as a kid, I remember people saying, "Your dad's a pastor, you're going to be the next one." I'm like, I ain't trying to be nobody preacher. I'm
No,
not trying to. Right? I don't. Right. So not that I was running from it, but I just saw all of the back office stuff that comes with running ministry and doing ministry, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't think I'm called for that. Am I called to inspire people and talk to people and encourage people? Yeah, I believe that. But as far as being a pastor of a church, I don't see that, right? And so you have that pressure. I'm the firstborn, right, of four children. So I have that pastor pressure, that PK pressure. But then I'm working professionally in the education world. In the education world is all about how many letters do you have behind your name? What is your data? Qualitative data is secondary when it comes to quantitative, right? And so I'm a qualitative person. I'm relational. I'm not as transactional as it is in education. So I feel like I didn't fit there as well. But what God began to show me is all the trial that I went through in ministry kind of prepared my heart to be able to minister to people in this space that I'm in right now. And what I learned in education was about order and making sure that I show up on time and that I have systems in place. That right there is a transferable skill I can bring into my business.
Yeah.
So those two things that where I felt disqualified are the things that God used to help me do what I'm doing right now.
And one of the other things that I was thinking about as you were talking and as I was thinking about my own personal journey is how, you talked about in the beginning when I was asking you about your ideal client, and you said something that is very key: those who are assigned to you. right? And so there's many people out there that, that do what you do. There's many people out there that do what I do or a variation of it. But God knows who has been assigned to you and what you're uniquely designed to attract to them. Because I know for me, I started thinking like, well, do I have to change the way that I dress? Do I have to, I have on this, sparkly sweater today, but normally I'm in a big chunky necklace and 6-inch heels, and because I believe that you can be saved and fly. Just saying. But the Lord told me, he was like, no, because, in the day and age that we're in now, especially with the experiences that people have had concerning God, the experiences that people have had in regards to church and some of the hurts that have come along with that, they're over it. Like they're so over and done with everything they've always seen and everything they've always heard. And he said, the people that I need you to reach, the voices that are already there, they're not going to hear. Now, that'll preach by itself. But I think it's important for people to recognize that when you're being called to something new, exactly who you are, everything you need is everything you have is everything that you need. And God is using you because of your experiences. God is using you because of exactly who you are. So when he's calling you to something new, he's not always asking you to be something new. But anyway, I don't want to go down a deep rabbit hole because I know you and I can take this thing a whole lot of different places. So let's get back to your God shift experience. So one of the things that I say is that, God uses disruption and he uses unexpected circumstances to get our attention and to invite us into the life that he has planned for us. But you're going to have to do things his way and prioritize him in your life in order to reveal exactly what it is that he's doing and exactly, how to access it. In order to access it, you've got to put your faith first. You've got to put God first. I think it's important that we recognize that we've got to elevate his position in our lives. So what would you say, why is that important, or why was it important for you specifically?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm still stuck on what you said before you just asked that question.
Okay, let's back it up.
My mind is there because again, that was some good eating. And I love having these kind of conversations about being authentic and about our journey. We were talking about the people that we are assigned to, and I began to think about the people that God has brought into my life, the people that I'm assigned to, and I'm seeing their faces as we're sitting here talking, and the threaded connectivity between all of these people, because they're different income levels, they are different places in their life, they have different professions, their desires are a little bit different, but the threaded connectivity that I'm hearing from them is that they want a safe place to unpack their transformational experiences. They want to do that in a place where they're not judged, and
Right.
they want to be held accountable as well. And so one thing that God has called me to, and there's a term that I use called relatable authority. Relatable authority. And he gave me that term last year when I asked, okay, God, who am I to these people? I'm hearing their stories. They're coming to me. I'm not really doing a whole lot to try to attract these people. I'm just showing up, doing what you told me to do.
Yeah.
Why does this message that I'm saying, that I'm teaching, why is it resonating with them? And he began to tell me how I am a relatable authority. He said, I need you to be a relatable authority. Okay, God, what does that mean? That
Mm.
means that you know what you know. You've been through the experiences. You have the battle scars. You've been tested. You got the systems to help these people. But that's the authority piece. That's the authority piece, right? But the relatable piece is your authenticity. When they follow you, when they see you living this message out. It's not just in your head, it's in your heart. It oozes out of you in everything that you do. You include your whole life into this message. So one thing that I do on purpose is I always include either like celebrating my wife or pictures of my kids or talking about the journey, because this is what my real life looks like.
Yeah.
It's not manufactured. And I don't have to have, there's not a business Jesse and then a Christian Jesse and then a daddy Jesse. It's like, no, I'm one person expressed in all these different ways, right? And I really believe, as God is unfolding what this kingdom platform concept really is, I believe that we're moving out of roles and responsibilities. So you're no longer just a mother or a wife or a daughter or a father or a business leader. No, God can use you. He can use your whole life to get his message out. And when you look at your life as a platform, it kind of breaks down those walls and those barriers of roles and responsibilities. So once you open your heart up and you open your life up to God being able to use you totally, the possibilities are endless. And that's the scripture that says that the blessings will chase you down. I believe that you'll begin to experience that happening to you to the point to where you can't even handle it. And that's
Exactly.
what's happening for us right now.
I love that. So let's pause for a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and give some tips about how some people can actually put into action what it is that you're talking about, because it's so, so important.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by the free guide, When God Says Shift. Inside that guide, you'll discover the 4 shifts required to follow God's plan to move you out of disruption and into a greater destiny, expectancy, and possibility. Head to GodSaysShift.com to access it now. So I love what you're talking about. You're talking about, who you are, being authentic in who you are. But even with that, we know that we need God's help. Even though we know that he qualifies us if he calls us, even though we know that he prepares us for the place that he has prepared for us, what advice would you give somebody who's actually struggling to elevate God's position in their life?
Yeah. So that question is kind of like a loaded question because it's almost as if it's us and then there's God. And we have to bring him in when he's already there, right?
Yeah,
It's all
that's good.
it's like doing business or doing life in partnership with God. He's already there. And so one thing that I've learned how to ask whenever life just starts coming in, or a confusion, or I don't have the clarity that I need, because that happens, um I slow down and I ask God, what is your best for me in this specific area? What is your best for me as a father? What is your best for me as an author, as a coach, as a husband? Like, what does that look like? Because I can have my own ideas based on the pressures and the perceptions of society, who says I'm supposed to look this way or sound this way. I can show up how I want to show up in my own ideas, but what is your best for me? Because
Right.
whatever that is, like, that's what I want to do. And once you do that, and it may not come just like that. It may come over time as you learn how to submit and develop a rhythm of spending time with him, whether that's getting up in the morning and reading the word or praying throughout the day, like whatever your rhythm is. I believe that once we commit to that rhythm, it opens our ears and it opens our heart and our spirit to be able to hear when God is speaking, because he's always speaking.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just too busy to listen, right?
Right.
So it opens us up to be able to always be in partnership with him in every area of our life. So ask God, like, what is your best for me in this specific area?
Yeah. I
Because
love that.
he wants to tell you.
I love that. So, as we begin to wrap this up, you're such a wealth of knowledge. So, what is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners? Anything that you would like to leave them with or share with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that what you want to become, it depends on your willingness to become it,
Mm,
because it's already there, right? We've been shaped. We are a reflection of God, right? We're made in his image. So whatever that looks like in your life, it depends on you doing the work, right? So Frederick Douglass has a quote that I talk about often when I'm presenting or coaching. He says that I prayed for 20 years for change to happen, but nothing happened until I prayed with my legs.
wow. I've never heard that before. Pray
Yeah,
with your legs. I love that because I say all the time, don't ask God to order your steps if you're not going to move your feet. But I love that. Pray with your legs. I'm stealing it. Who did you say you stole it from? Frederick Douglass?
Frederick Douglass, yeah.
Well, I'm stealing it from both of y'all. Jesse, how can our listeners find you? And is there anything that you can offer them to be able to take things further with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Coach Jesse Cole, right? I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the show notes, Coach Jesse Cole. And you can find me on Facebook as well at Jesse Cole Speaks. So those are the two places that that I frequently post and share my messages. I also have a private coaching program that I just launched called Kingdom Platforms, where I'm helping you discover, build, and monetize your message. I have a group program that I'm doing over 6 months, but that's already in the queue, so that's already going. So you can't get in that until next January. I do that once a year, but my private coaching, that's an ongoing thing. So you can go to kingdomplatforms.com, kingdomplatforms.com. And when you go there, you're going to see the logo, you're going to see a welcome video, and you're going to see my calendar, something real simple. All you have to do is get on my calendar, schedule a 30-minute free call with me. And I would love to, hear more about what you believe your story is and how we can help you discover and build that thing out and begin to monetize it in book form.
Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Where they can find you on social media and a link to that offer will be in the show notes so that you don't have to diligently go back and rewind or take copious notes. They will be in the show notes. So Jesse, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your journey with our listeners. I really believe that this story is, first of all, an indication that a God shift is not always a negative thing. I think we're dramatic people, and sometimes it takes dramatic things to get our attention. But I love the fact that you were able to demonstrate that a God shift, a disruption, or an unexpected circumstance does not always have to be something that is negative. So first of all, thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
It was my pleasure. I had fun, and we have to do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, you all, for listening to this episode of the God Shift podcast. And I hope that you will tune in here next week for the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.